Hi, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. And no, your eyes are not playing tricks on you. I did change my shirt. I've been trying to go with like neutral, bright, high vibration tones that also kind of go with my backdrop here. So, hope it works out. Today I wanted to talk about Dharma. This is a really important topic in raising our vibration. This is an important concept to tune into. So Dharma is usually translated as right action. That which is the highest path that you can take in any particular circumstance. In some of the ancient Indian stories, people are discussing about how they can, all the different rules of Dharma and, which rule supersedes which rule and what is the highest Dharma. And that's all well and good to tune into those kinds of things, but what I find most helpful is there's a deep sense of knowing within me of what's right. It's Jiminy Cricket, it's your conscience. And it's that sense of like, let's say you have a difficult confrontation with somebody, and then afterwards you might be going through in your mind, oh, I wish I had said this thing to them, or, if I had just said that, we would have been so pointed and so right on, and that's just what they needed to hear. Maybe, and there can be some satisfaction in those thoughts and getting those things right, in being able to say those things in the moment. But at least whenever I've experienced that, what I find is that if I tune in a little deeper, a little softer, a little quieter within myself, there's another voice that's saying, really, Jacob? Would you really feel better if you had said exactly that in that moment? Would your heart be calmer? Would you feel more loving, more expansive, more joyful if you'd said that thing? Usually not. If we can tune in, and this is where meditation is extremely helpful, the more that we can practice tuning into silence, quieting our mind, quieting our heart, diving within, we find that we can start to perceive that quiet voice, that voice of intuition, that the voice of our conscience. It's never pushy. It never tells us we have to do something. It just offers these gentle suggestions. And if we say, oh, no, well, that wasn't right. No, they needed to hear that. They deserve that. And well, they clearly have this issue that they're working with. And if I just say this thing to them, then they'll understand. And if you emotionally bluster in that way, your conscience just fades away into the background. It doesn't put up any resistance at all. But over time, this has been my experience, I've realized that that's actually the best advice comes from that quiet voice, that still small voice within. And the more that I practice meditation and the more that I practice listening for which voice is the right quiet voice within me, the better that I'm able to live my life and the more joyful and expansive that I feel. Dharma is that voice that for me usually says, actually the highest expression for you in that moment maybe was, if let's say somebody was just showering me with negativity, to like the bow of a ship, cut through that with love. Just create a shield, a blessing of love that just envelops and radiates outward. Maybe that's the best that I can do, because if someone's not receptive, let's say I really actually wanted to convey something to somebody, but if they're not receptive to it, there's absolutely no point in me bringing it up, and especially not in a sort of cutting way. So frequently in difficult circumstances, the best thing we can do is to radiate love, to tune in, to be as strong a channel for love and blessings, expansive, calm feeling as possible. The more that we can train ourselves to bring that vibration into our daily moments, especially the difficult ones, the easier it is to live in a higher vibration. So Dharma will ask things of us and even test us in ways. As I was planning this talk out, I was remembering a story that I heard recently about a group of people that were in a restaurant or a bar, and this argument broke out between two different groups of people, and it escalated and was like borderline going to become violent. And one man, who fortunately had some clear insight in the moment, his solution to the whole circumstance was not shouting people down, not physically restraining anybody. He grabbed a very expensive bottle of wine and poured it all over his own head. And it just completely caught everybody off guard. It was completely unexpected, and it broke the whole tone of the situation. And then in that state, when everybody kind of, mentally took a step back, they realized, of course, we're not going to get into a fight about whatever it was. And I just thought that was such a beautiful example of somebody doing something completely out of left field and really resolving a situation in a beautiful way, because when people are about to get into a physical fight, they're usually not really interested in logic, in compassion, and things like that. Of course, if we have a strong enough vibration of love, we can transmute even outward violence into peace and calmness. This is how there are many stories of saints being able to tame dangerous wild animals, lions and tigers, probably bears, oh my, and snakes, things like that. But it's through their loving vibration, it just completely removes any sense of violence in whatever animal it is. That quiet voice of Dharma will ask us to do things that are unusual, sometimes maybe pouring a bottle of wine on our heads, and sometimes it's making what seem like sacrifices. But ultimately, listening to that voice is always the right thing. There's a guiding principle at Ananda. Ananda is a movement of consciousness, of bringing upliftment through the teachings of yoga into the world. And there are a number of intentional communities around the world, and I'm living in one. And it's been one of the guiding principles of Ananda that where there is Dharma, there alone lies victory. It's actually an ancient Sanskrit teaching, but it's one of the core things that we look to whenever we're trying to make a decision. Any kind of decision for the community, for ourselves, financially, personally, whatever it is. What's the right action? What's the highest action to take in this circumstance? And then doing everything we can to make sure that happens. Because again, where there is Dharma, or where there is right action, there alone lies victory. Because we might be able to win seeming victories in the short run, but they always fall short. It's like that person who's talking to us confrontationally, and we might make that cutting remark, and it feels good in the moment, and maybe we put them in their place, and isn't that nice? But then the next day there's just going to be another confrontation, and another, and it's going to be worse and harder and more difficult, and we haven't won anything. We've only made our lives more difficult. We've lowered our vibration and the other person's vibration. Instead, if we can choose love, if we can reach for a higher vibration, maybe even just trying to stay calm. Frequently, that's all that I can do in difficult circumstances, is just trying to remember to breathe, to keep my energy, myself calm and neutral. And in that, I find that situations are frequently diffused, or that I'm able to at least be in a place where I'm not so reactive to what's coming to me. And for me, that's my next step. I feel blessed when I'm able to do my best in a circumstance like that. So there's another story that I wanted to tell about Dharma testing us. In the Mahabharata, which is an ancient Indian epic poem, and also a very important, powerful spiritual allegory for the spiritual path. All the different characters are different aspects within us. At the end, there's a man, Yudhishthira, who's walking in the mountains, and this little dog has followed him, and all his other companions have died, actually, along the way. And he's walking along, and all of a sudden this chariot comes down from the heavens, comes before him, and this is the charioteer of the Lord of the Gods. And he steps out and he says, Yudhishthira, you have lived such a noble life. It is your right now to come with me on this chariot. We can ascend to heaven right now. You don't need to go through the process of dying because you've lived such a pure life. And Yudhishthira says, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so blessed. And that sounds great. I just need to bring my dog. And the charioteer says, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm sorry. We can't just bring a dog in this chariot up to heaven. It doesn't work like that. You have this very special blessing, but we can't take the dog, but he'll be okay. And Yudhishthira says, well, this dog has been my faithful companion. He's followed me this whole way, and he's looking to me for leadership, and I can't abandon him right now. And the charioteer says, okay, that's nice. You have this extremely rare opportunity, and we can't take the dog. The dog is going to be okay. You just need to get in the chariot and come. It's going to be fine. But we can't take the dog. The dog has to stay. That's my best offer. And Yudhishthira says, well, I understand. Thank you. But I will never abandon somebody who's looking to me for guidance, for help, who's come to me for aid. So I'm sorry, but I have to turn you down. And the charioteer says, okay, wow, well, we weren't expecting that, but good luck with you and your dog, and I guess we'll be seeing you whenever you're ready to go the normal way. And then all of a sudden, this little meager dog, this little mutt, turns into the god of Dharma. And they both, the charioteer and Yudhishthira, fall at his feet. The god of Dharma gives Yudhishthira his blessings. And he says, this was your final test. Now you can go. And we never know, what would have happened if Yudhishthira had said, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, little dog, you'll be fine, you'll be okay, I'll say a prayer for you in heaven, and then went up. He would have failed in some way. And that's how Dharma can test us. Not always, but I've had that experience come up where there's the offer or the seeming offer of something very wonderful, but it comes at the sacrifice of something, even something very minor, that just doesn't feel quite right. If we can train ourselves to completely always just do what feels right at the deepest level, things will always work out for us. There's this beautiful Indian movie, Bajrangi Bhaijaan, and it's about this man who is completely devoted to Dharma, and it is such a beautiful story, and how he takes care of this young girl and helps her find her way. And but time and time again, he comes up to very difficult circumstances, and he always just says, no, I can't be dishonest. I'm not going to lie about anything. I'm not going to hide anything. And just through his power, his commitment to Dharma, and going through this process with complete integrity, he ends up winning the hearts of so many people and changing so many people and drawing so many friends and support to him. And that's a beautiful film that I would highly recommend. So anyway, we'll be talking about Dharma a lot more, and that word will come up. So I wanted to spend some time talking about it and encouraging you to also just look as you can. Just look for those moments throughout your days. Listen for that voice that's guiding you, that's always there. Sometimes it's very difficult to hear, but it is always there for us if we're willing to hear what it has to say. And doing our best with humility and with self-honesty, and always checking in. And sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we don't hear it right, and we do something and we realize we made a mistake. And that's okay. And first off, I want to say, don't feel ashamed of yourself. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're a bad person for any mistake that you make. But recognize. It's fair to recognize that I made a mistake. I could have done that better. Next time, I'll try to do better. And I'll always do my best. And in that way, we can always be growing, always refining our relationship with Dharma, with right action, with our purpose in life, and of course, moving into higher vibration. Thanks for watching. May you be blessed with the voice of Dharma in all you do.